All right, everybody, welcome back. Ready to get our hands dirty with some serious financial intel.
Let's do it! Always up for digging into the nitty-gritty of company filings.
Today's deep dive, we're tackling WisdomTree. We've got their 10Ks from 2020 through 2023 stacked up and ready to dissect.
4 years of financial statements, strategic insights. It's like a treasure trove of information waiting to be unearthed.
For anyone who doesn't know, WisdomTree, they're big into ETFs. But they're not just offering the plain vanilla kind. They're trying to shake things up a bit, right?
Absolutely. They're all about what they call modern alpha. And let me tell you, it's a different ballgame than your typical passive ETF.
Okay, so break it down for us. What's so modern about their approach?
Well, think of it this way. A lot of ETFs just try to mirror a market index. Like if the S&P 500 goes up 1%, they go up 1%. But WisdomTree, they're not content with just matching the market. They want to beat it.
So it's not just about tracking an index. It's about making strategic bets to outperform, riskier.
There's always risk in the market. But WisdomTree tries to find that sweet spot, balancing risk and reward to potentially deliver something extra for investors.
And they're not afraid to be the first ones out the gate with new ETF ideas, are they?
Not at all. They were the first to launch a spot Bitcoin ETF in the US, a huge deal.
Definitely made some waves in the industry.
And it doesn't stop there. Emerging markets, small cap ETFs, actively managed currency ETFs, they're constantly pushing the boundaries, trying to find new ways to meet investor needs.
Like a chef crafting a new menu, always experimenting with different flavors.
Precisely. And here's another interesting ingredient. They actually create their own indexes for most of their ETFs.
So they're not just following the crowd, they're charting their own course. That's got to come with some advantages.
Definitely. For starters, it means they're not paying licensing fees to use someone else's index.
Cost savings, always a plus.
Exactly. But it's more than that. By creating their own indexes, they have much greater control over how the ETFs are structured, which lets them really fine-tune those investments to match their specific strategies.
Okay, so we got the innovative ETFs, but it doesn't stop there, does it? WisdomTree is also making big moves in the tech space, especially when it comes to supporting financial advisors.
Right. They're not just selling ETFs, they're building a whole ecosystem to help advisors thrive.
Makes sense. The financial advisory landscape is changing rapidly.
Absolutely. We're seeing a huge shift toward fee-based models. Instead of earning commissions on individual trades, advisors are charging fees based on the total assets they manage.
Which means they need low-cost investment options to attract or retain clients.
Exactly. And that's where ETFs come in. They often have lower fees than other investments, which makes them really appealing for these fee-based advisors.
So WisdomTree is really trying to position themselves as a partner to advisors, not just a product provider. Smart move, but even with a winning strategy, no company's immune to challenges. Time to put on our risk manager hats and see what kinds of red flags or potential bumps in the road WisdomTree is dealing with.
Right, because even the most successful companies have to navigate their share of obstacles. And the first one that always comes to mind, especially in the financial world, market volatility.
Makes sense. The market's been a bit of a roller coaster these past few years, to say the least.
Tell me about it. And because ETFs are directly tied to the performance of the assets they hold, when the market takes a hit, ETF values can take a hit too.
So how a particular ETF performs is directly linked to the underlying assets, whether that's stocks, bonds, or whatever they're tracking.
Exactly. Then there's the competitive landscape. The ETF market is getting increasingly crowded with new players popping up all the time, and everyone's trying to offer the lowest fees possible.
It's like a race to the bottom on fees, which can make it tough to stay profitable.
Absolutely. So maintaining a competitive edge is crucial. And one way WisdomTree tries to do that, something that really caught my eye in their filings, is their patent for their index methodology.
They've got a patent. Now that's interesting.
Right. It shows they're serious about protecting their intellectual property, their unique approach. Of course, with a patent comes the potential for legal battles. And wouldn't you know it, they've had their fair share of those. The filings mention a few, but the one that stands out, a lawsuit in Italy involving their WisdomTree WTI crude oil 3x daily leveraged ETP.
Leveraged ETPs, those can be tricky. So what happened there?
In a nutshell, this particular ETP was designed to amplify the daily returns of oil futures contracts 3 times over, in fact.
So if oil went up 1%, this ETP went up 3%.
You got it. But on the flip side, if oil went down 1%, the ETP dropped 3 reverse. And in March of 2020, we saw that historic oil price crash, remember?
How could we forget? Oil prices even went negative for the first time ever.
Exactly. And because this ETP was leveraged, it amplified those losses, which led to significant investor losses and ultimately its closure.
Ouch.
Right. Now, the lawsuit in Italy argued that the closure wasn't handled properly. This just goes to show that even the most established companies can face unforeseen challenges.
And it highlights the importance of really understanding what you're investing in, especially when it comes to more complex products.
Couldn't agree more. But let's shift gears a bit from potential pitfalls to an area of immense opportunity in the world of digital assets.
All right, let's talk digital gold rush. It's clear from their filings that WisdomTree is placing some big bets on the future of finance. They're diving headfirst into this space.
They are, and I'd say they're doing it strategically. They're not just chasing the hype, they're building a thoughtful approach.
Yeah.
Remember, they were one of the first to launch a spot Bitcoin ETF in the US.
Right. Pioneering that new territory.
Exactly. But we have to remember the digital asset market is still in its early stages, and it's a wild ride. We're talking about extreme volatility, regulatory uncertainty, a whole new set of risks to consider.
So it's exciting, it's innovative, but it's not without its challenges.
Exactly.
One thing that's really stood out to me as we've been digging into WisdomTree is their focus on their people. They seem to really value their employees.
You're right. They talk a lot about their commitment to creating a supportive and inclusive workplace, and it shows. They've got their Women's Initiative Network, and they've consistently been recognized as a great place to work. They've received numerous awards for their workplace culture.
Which speaks volumes, in my opinion. A company that takes care of its employees is often a company that's built to last.
Couldn't agree more.
It's like we're getting a behind-the-scenes look at how they operate.
Exactly. And one thing to watch for is their growth strategy. Are they focused on creating new products, maybe expanding into new markets?
Or even acquiring other companies.
Exactly. Those are all clues about where they see the biggest opportunities. And speaking of opportunities, don't overlook their capital allocation strategy.
Capital allocation, that sounds a bit intimidating.
It's really just a fancy way of saying, how are they spending their money? Are they investing heavily in research and development? Are they buying back their own stock? Maybe paying down debt?
So it's about understanding their priorities. What are they putting their money behind?
Precisely. And those decisions can tell you a lot about their confidence in their own future.
Okay, we've talked about their strategies, but what about the potential pitfalls? Every company has them. Where do they lay out the risks?
Ah, the risk factors section. Now, this part can be a bit dry, I'll admit, but it's essential reading. They're obligated to disclose anything that could potentially hurt their business. And believe me, they don't hold back.
So it's like a worst-case scenario list.
In a way, yes. You'll find everything from competition and regulatory changes to cybersecurity threats. Even things like climate change and its potential impact on their business.
Wow, they really cover all their bases. So we're looking at their strategies, scrutinizing their risks. Anything else we should be keeping in mind as we try to make sense of these filings?
Don't just focus on one year in isolation. Look for trends over time. Compare the language they used in the 2020 filing to what they're saying in 2023.
So look for how their tone has changed, whether there's more optimistic or more cautious about certain things.
Exactly. Have they shifted their priorities? Are they facing new challenges that weren't on their radar a few years ago? These are the questions you want to be asking.
It's like piecing together a puzzle, seeing how the pieces fit together over time.
Right. And don't forget to benchmark them against their peers. How do their financials stack up against other asset managers or ETF providers? Are they growing faster? Are their margins healthier?
So it's not just about looking at WisdomTree in a vacuum. We need to see how they measure up to the competition.
Exactly. It helps you get a much more well-rounded view of their performance and their potential.
It's like we're financial detectives looking for clues and connecting the dots.
And that's what makes this kind of analysis so rewarding. It's not just about memorizing numbers, it's about understanding the story behind them.
And hopefully, by understanding that story, we can make smarter investment decisions for ourselves.
Absolutely. That's the ultimate goal.
So it's like we're taking all these pieces of the puzzle, their ETFs, their tech initiatives, their foray into digital assets, even their company culture, and trying to see the bigger picture, right?
Exactly. It's about connecting the dots.
Yep.
What kind of company is WisdomTree? What are their core values? What are their ambitions? And ultimately, what's their potential?
And I gotta say, after spending some quality time with these 10Ks, I'm getting a much clearer sense of who they are as a company.
Me too. And I think the biggest takeaway here is their forward-thinking approach. They're not afraid to embrace innovation, even if it means taking risks.
Yeah, they're definitely not content with just playing it safe, whether it's developing new types of ETFs or Diving headfirst into the world of digital assets, they seem determined to stay ahead of the curve.
Absolutely. And that kind of ambition can be exciting for investors, but it's not without its risks. We've talked about the challenges they're facing, the competitive landscape, the regulatory hurdles, the inherent volatility of the markets they operate in.
Right, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There are real challenges, and they've been pretty transparent about that in their filings, which I appreciate.
Transparency is key. And I think that's what makes this kind of deep dive so valuable. We're not just relying on marketing materials or flashy headlines. We're going straight to the source, getting our information directly from the company itself.
And by doing so, we're becoming more informed investors. We're learning to ask the right questions, to look beyond the surface, and to make our own judgments based on the facts.
Exactly. It's about empowering yourself with knowledge and using that knowledge to make smarter decisions.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, folks, there you have it, our deep dive into the world of WisdomTree, courtesy of their very own 10K filings. We've covered a lot of ground today, from their innovative ETF strategies to their bold moves in the digital asset space. We've analyzed their financials, scrutinized their risks, and even gotten a glimpse into their company culture.
It's been quite a journey, and I hope our listeners feel equipped to continue their own exploration of this fascinating company.
Because ultimately, that's what this is all about, giving you the tools and the knowledge to become a savvier investor. Whether you're just starting out or you're a seasoned pro, there's always something new to learn, always a new layer to uncover. So keep asking questions, keep digging deeper, and most importantly, happy investing.